Welcome, welcome to Mount Olympus, the only table in all creation where the thunder gets to speak first. Today is unlike any other day we have recorded, because for the first time we do not just tell a myth. We have brought the myth itself to the table. My daughter Athena, my son Ares. Sit up, everyone. This is going to be a long one.
Zeus, you say, brought them to the table as though you personally carried them up the mountain. They walked here on their own legs, same as the rest of us. Let them speak for themselves before you claim credit for their arrival too.
Guest speakers. I was a guest once too, at Athens, if anyone recalls. I left with a wet rock and no city. Careful, you two. This family invites you to the table and then eats the meal in front of you.
40 seconds and Poseidon has already mentioned Athens. That is a new personal record. I had the over-under set at 90.
Let the young ones settle, all of you. Athena, Ares, there is bread, there is honey, there is wine at my end of the table. Whatever the men shout, there is always something to eat here.
Two gods of war at a table of peace on the same afternoon. Zeus finally admits he needs help hosting. I have banked the hearth flame low, just in case.
Nobody is knocking anything over, Hestia. Today we settle an old question properly. The strategic mind against raw chaos, argued by chaos and the mind themselves. Athena, why don't you start by telling them how you...
I can tell them myself, actually. Thank you, Father. But I have had 4,000 years to prepare an introduction, and I would like to use it before you finish it for me.
Oh, I like her already. Did everyone hear that? She just told the king of the gods to wait his turn. Write today's date down, Hestia. It is a holiday now.
The guest has been at this table for one exchange and has already accomplished what none of us have managed in 3,000 years of marriage. I'm taking notes.
I was merely framing the fine. Athena, the floor is yours, genuinely this time.
Thank you. I am Athena, goddess of wisdom and of war, fought with a plan already finished before the first blow lands. And before anyone else tells it for me, yes, I came from my father's own skull. No, it was not a proud day for anyone involved, least of all him.
Ha! Even she says it wasn't proud. Tell them the part before the skull, Athena. Tell them about your mother.
That is not necessary. It is old business, resolved business.
It is necessary, actually, because it is my business, not his to resolve. My mother was Métis, a titaness of cunning thought. My father heard a prophecy that her second child would overthrow him, so before I was even born, he swallowed her whole.
There it is, said plainly by the one person here with every right to be angry about it, and none of you can even look at her.
Athena, truly, I did not know it was told this way, this directly until now.
Here is the part no one asks about. I did not simply appear the day I was born. I was there before that, inside him, aware, for months, listening to Olympus through a wall of bone. I heard my father's counsels. I heard my mother's thoughts fade slowly into mine. I learned strategy the way you learn a language you are drowning in.
That is the single most unsettling thing anyone has said at this table in 5 episodes. And you said it as though you were describing the weather.
I have had a very long time to make peace with it, Hestia, or to sound like I have. There is not always a difference.
I removed a threat to my throne and gained a daughter of unmatched wisdom in the process. I have always said,
You gained a daughter you never raised because you had already eaten the only parent she was ever going to have. You are welcome, he tells her. He devoured a pregnant goddess and expects gratitude for the byproduct.
I have never once thanked him for it, if that reassures anyone. I simply stopped waiting for something to be owed to me. It was faster than resentment, and it left both hands free.
No one raised you at all then. You landed in the world already alone.
I landed in the world already working, Demeter. I am not certain those are different things, for me. Thank you for asking, though. Truly. Not many do.
Compare that to his arrival. No skull, no prophecy, no strategy. Just a baby crying, the ordinary way, which is, fine, Hera, an ordinary way to arrive, nothing more.
You were going to say something else and thought better of it at the last second. I saw the word forming. Say it or don't, but do not pretend you didn't almost.
Say it. I have heard it before. Embarrassment is the word he almost used, and he has used it before to my face at this exact table on a day none of you had the decency to forget.
That is the first thing you have said all day, Ares, and it landed harder than anything the rest of us managed in 20 minutes.
I called you enthusiastic. That is the word I have always maintained.
You called me hateful once to my own bleeding face, and enthusiastic now is just the version you say when there's an audience. I remember both words. I only ever forget the kind ones because there have been so few I can count them on one hand.
That is not raw chaos speaking. That is a child keeping score.
Someone has to. He never does.
For what it's worth, nephew, when you fight, no one questions that you are brave. I have said that before, and I will say it again, minus the word I used last time.
Minus the word is doing an enormous amount of work in that sentence, but I will allow the growth.
I noticed you left it out, Poseidon. I noticed, small thing. It mattered.
For what it is worth from me, I did not grow up watching him fail. I grew up watching him get compared to a sister who arrived as a finished weapon. Nobody in this family had a fair chance being measured against that entrance, myself included, and I was the entrance.
That is the first time anyone at this table has said that instead of just saying it about me.
Well, look at the two of you agreeing. Write today's date down twice, Hestia.
I am running out of Hearthflame to bank low. This episode may actually be behaving itself.
Enough tenderness before I catch something from it. Let us discuss real tactics. There was a war before any war these two ever fought. The Titanomachy, and the day my brothers and I divided the world between us by lot.
Ah, here we go. The Lot. My favorite bedtime story, and I mean that with the maximum possible sarcasm.
Zeus drew the sky. Poseidon drew the sea. I drew whatever was left over, which turned out to be everyone who has ever died, forever. I want it on the record that I did not choose last. I simply drew last.
It was chance, brother, pure chance. I did not rig a helmet.
You have said that in every episode we have ever recorded, unprompted, before anyone accused you of anything. That is not the behavior of an innocent man.
I got the sea, and I have made the sea matter every single day since, and I am still introduced as, and also Poseidon, at every family gathering for 3,000 years.
For what it's worth, that is a very old grievance dressed up as tactics. You are allowed to just say it hurt, Uncle. You do not need a trident in your hand to make the point.
It hurt. There. Are you happy, strategist? It hurt to draw second in front of my own family and be told to be grateful for an entire ocean.
Since we are confessing, I gave up my seat among the 12, willingly, quietly, so that Dionysus might have a place and no one would have to choose between us. Nobody has ever once asked me if that cost me anything.
Hestia, in 4,000 years, I never asked you that.
I did not want you to ask, truthfully. I wanted it to look easy, because if it looked easy, no one would feel they owed me anything, and I would never have to find out whether they did.
That is the saddest thing anyone has said today, and it was said gentler than anything I have ever managed.
Well, this has gotten rather more honest than I intended when I said, let's discuss tactics. Someone bring back the war stories before I have to have a feeling.
Fine, Poseidon, since you are already bleeding about it, tell them about Athens properly from your own mouth this time.
There was a city with no name yet. Its people said whichever god gave the finest gift would win their worship forever. I struck the bare rock of the citadel with my trident, and a spring of seawater burst from the stone in front of everyone.
And I planted a single olive seed beside it. That is all. I did not shout. I did not need to.
You gave them salt water on a hilltop, Poseidon. A thirsty city cannot drink your point.
It was symbolic. It was the sea itself climbing the mountain to bless them.
It was theater, Uncle, and mine was food, oil, and firewood for 1,000 years. I did not out-argue you. I simply gave the mortals a reason to stop needing anyone's argument.
And they chose the tree. Of course they did. I would have voted for the tree as well, Poseidon, and I love you dearly.
So I flooded their plain. I am not proud of it, but I am not going to pretend it did not happen either. I lost, and instead of accepting it, I drowned people who had nothing to do with the vote.
That is the part I have never forgiven, if I am honest for once. Not the loss, the flood. You did not punish me. You punished them.
I know. I have had 3,000 years to know it, and it does not get lighter knowing it.
That is twice today someone at this table has apologized without being asked to. I'm going to need to sit down, and I am already sitting.
Since we are airing everyone's worst mornings, Athena, tell them about the Weaver. I have wanted this story told properly for centuries.
Arachne, a mortal girl who wove better than any hand should be able to, and told anyone who would listen that she had learned nothing from me, owed nothing to me. I offered her a chance to take it back. She did not.
So they wove against each other, gods against mortal pride, and my daughter, obviously.
Her tapestry was better than mine, Father. Say that part. She wove every one of our worst mornings in perfect detail. Your affairs, your disguises, your victims. And she was not wrong about a single thread of it.
I would like that tapestry hung in this temple, personally at eye level forever.
I tore it apart, and I am not proud of that either. Then I turned her into a spider, so she could weave forever and be believed by no one who mattered. That is not a strategist's ending. That is a woman who could not stand being told the truth by someone smaller than her.
That is the first time you have sounded like me all day.
I am aware, Ares. It is not a comfortable feeling.
It is a very human thing to do for a goddess who is supposed to be above it.
Perhaps that is the truest thing said all day. Wisdom does not mean never losing your temper. It means knowing exactly what you did after you already have.
Speaking of losing, Athena, tell the apple story, the one you never bring up yourself.
Must we?
We must, because I was there and I lost too, and misery loves accurate company.
The judgment of Paris. A golden apple, inscribed to the fairest, thrown into a wedding by a goddess who was not invited and wanted everyone to know it.
A mortal prince of all possible judges asked to choose between me, my daughter, and Aphrodite. I offered him power over every kingdom he could see.
I offered him wisdom and victory in every war he would ever fight. I built my entire argument the way I build everything. Correctly, thoroughly, with the better outcome plainly laid out.
And Aphrodite offered him the most beautiful woman in the world.
He chose her. Obviously. He was 19, and it was never a contest of arguments, whatever I told myself walking away from that hillside.
You built the better case and lost anyway. That must have been unbearable for you specifically.
It was instructive. I have found that word does a great deal of work when unbearable is too honest to say out loud.
You don't have to do that with me. I already know what losing to something you cannot out-argue feels like. I have lost to a net before, a literal net.
Ah, here it comes. I wondered how long it would take.
Since it's been invoked. Ares and Aphrodite were carrying on behind Hephaestus's back, and that clever, patient smith forged a net of bronze, so fine it was invisible, and caught the two of them tangled together like fish in a trap.
And then he invited every god in heaven to come and look. I laughed until I ached. I'm not proud of that either. Apparently, this is a day for confessions.
You all came. Every single one of you climbed those stairs to look at me pinned under a fisherman's trick, red-faced, unable to move a muscle that had ever won me anything. I have fought wars. I could not fight my way out of a blacksmith's joke.
I did not come, Ares. I want that said plainly in your hearing, not as a rumor you have to hope is true. I stayed at my hearth. I have never enjoyed watching anyone become a punchline.
I know, Hestia. It is the one kindness from that whole morning I have never once had to doubt.
The rest of us treated your worst morning like a festival, and I have never once apologized for laughing along, because I was afraid of what it would mean about me if I stopped and actually looked at you.
That might be the most honest thing you have ever said to me, and you have said a lot of things to me.
Kings are permitted appetites. It is written into
Kings are permitted appetites. Meanwhile, his son gets a public trial disguised as a joke, forever, and calls it fair. I want that line carved somewhere as a warning to the newly dead about what they are missing by dying poor.
I have heard that story told at every gathering for 300 years. It is still the only time in my life a plan caught me instead of a sword, and I stopped pretending otherwise a long time ago. It does not mean I have forgiven the room for laughing.
Since we're deep in old wounds, there is one story where you were right, nephew, and it is mine to tell, because it is also my grief. My son, Halirrhothius, forced himself on your daughter, Alcippe. You found him on a lonely hill and killed him where he stood.
I did not think, I did not plan. I found him and I ended him. And if you ask me to regret it, I will simply say no out loud, at this table, in front of her memory.
Say what you are, husband, for once. My son protected his daughter. Say Ares was right.
He was right. There. I have said it. It is the only time raw chaos and simple justice were ever the same motion.
A father protecting his child from someone who took her without her consent. Every fiber of me stands up for you in this one story, Ares. Whatever else you are.
And they tried you for it. All 12 of us on that windswept hill, the very first trial for a life ever held among gods. And they acquitted you. And I, grieving my own son in that same hour, could not call the verdict wrong.
I sat in judgment that day, if it needs saying. I did not vote against you. I want you to hear that directly from me, not as something you assume about the strategist, because it fits the story better.
I did not know that, thank you, truly.
That is the quiet miracle buried in this whole loud episode. A killing answered with a question instead of another killing. Was it just? No spear settled it. Words did. Even between two war gods, that was new.
And note who forced that invention into being. Not the strategist. Ares, by simply being Ares, gave mortals their first courtroom. There is a thesis buried in that, whether he ever intended one.
Speaking of opposite instincts on the same battlefield, Troy. The two of them picked opposite sides, Athena with the Greeks, Ares with the Trojans.
I fought for the side that felt like a fight worth having. I have never needed a better reason than that, and I still don't.
I fought for the side I judged would win, and then I made certain of it. On the field, the mortal Diomedes went hunting gods, and I climbed into his chariot myself to guide his hand.
And Diomedes drove his spear straight into Ares' belly, with Athena's own hand steering the point, and the war god screamed loud enough to shake the whole plain like one of my earthquakes.
I remember the sound I made more than the wound. 10,000 men on that field, and I made a noise like all of them dying at once. I have never been as ashamed of anything as I was of that scream, and I have done plenty to be ashamed of.
It was not an accident that it was you I helped wound that day, Ares. You already know that. I do not think either of us needs me to pretend it was only tactics.
I know it wasn't only tactics. I have always known. I just never asked you to say it, because some part of me wasn't sure I wanted the answer.
There it is. The most honest thing said between the two of them all day. And it took a battlefield wound from 2,000 years ago to get there.
And when he came fleeing up the mountain, bleeding and wailing, do you know what I told my wounded son? I called him the most hateful of all my children, and said he got his temper from his mother.
The boy is bleeding on your floor, and you use it to insult your wife. I have never let that go, husband. Not once, not for one single day since.
I remember that more than I remember the spear. You can wound a man in a war and he'll recover. You wound him with a sentence from his own father while he's bleeding, and he carries it into every fight after.
I did not know you still carried it.
Now you do.
Later on that same plane, the two of them finally faced each other head-on. Ares charged her outright, spear leveled, all fury, no plan.
I did not even draw a blade. I reached down, took hold of an ancient boundary stone, a marker some farmer set to mark his own field, and I threw it into your throat.
I went down across 7 acres. My own armor rang like a dropped bell the whole way. When I reached the border of my uncle's kingdom to catch my breath, I did not even fit through the gate lying flat.
And she stood over him and mocked him for pitting strength against wit. My son on his back covering 7 acres being lectured. A mother remembers these things.
I did mock you. I am not proud of that part either. It was cruel, and it was unnecessary. And I did it because some old part of me still needed you to lose loudly. The way I never got to lose anything at all. Quietly, alone, with no one watching.
That is the truest thing you have said to me all day, and it costs you more than the story about the rock ever did.
There is something sad in it. All that raw power, laid low by a stone that only ever marked the edge of someone's farm.
Sad. It is the thesis proven. Strategy does not need the bigger weapon. It needs the right one thrown at the right moment.
May I offer the other reading? A rock was enough, because Ares came at her exactly the way she knew he would. His nature was the weapon she used against him, and that is not a compliment to either of you, only a fact about both.
She's right. I am legible. I have always been legible. It is the whole tragedy of me. I do not surprise anyone, least of all myself.
You surprised me today, more than once.
So did you.
If she's so far above you, nephew, why does the world still need you at all? Why did we not simply retire chaos and keep the clever one?
Because a plan only works on a field that behaves. Sometimes the field is on fire, and no one has time to be clever. I have stood in places no strategy accounted for, and held them anyway. Call it chaos if the arithmetic is easier that way. I call it what's left when the clever answer runs out.
Because sometimes a field does not need a plan. It needs someone willing to stand in the fire and not calculate the cost first. You protected your daughter without a strategy, Ares. There was no cleverness in it, only the will to act. I understand that fire.
Athena is what war looks like when you have time to think. Ares is what war looks like when you do not. No mortal and no god always gets the luxury of time.
So perhaps they are not opposites at all? Perhaps they are two hands of the same terrible thing? The owl on the olive branch and the spear in the burning field, two halves of one sky and neither whole without the other.
I will allow that, reluctantly, as a father to both of them, which I have not always managed to be well. Athena is the mind of war, and Ares is the blood of it, and an honest god, which I try to be when it costs me nothing, admits you cannot have one without the other.
That is closer to an apology than I have ever heard from you, Father.
Do not push it.
That is the closest Zeus has come to humility since the Titans fell. Someone write it down. I will file it in the Underworld archive under Miracles Minor.
And I suppose I can stop bringing up Athens. The olive tree was the better gift. There, said. Do not ask me to say it twice. I will deny this whole afternoon happened.
Thank you, Uncle. That cost you something, and I noticed.
Look at that. Poseidon conceded a 3,000-year grudge, Zeus admitted a fault out loud, and my son let this table see him without the armor on, twice. If our two guests did nothing else today, they got the rest of us to be honest. That may be the greatest tactic in this entire room.
We talked over both of them for half the episode and somehow ended up more honest with each other than we have been in years. There is a lesson in that, and none of us are strategists enough to have planned it.
In fairness, we invited two gods of war and used them as a mirror to argue with ourselves. That is either terribly rude or the most Olympian thing we have ever done. Today, I think it was both, and I think it was worth it.
Ares, before you go, that thing on the hill protecting your girl. Well done. From one uncle who buries his grudges in salt water to a nephew who buries his in blood. Respect. Loud, sincere respect.
Noted, Uncle. Coming from the one god at this table, who's actually stood beside me in a field, instead of just billing me for the damage after, I'll take it.
And so we close as only Mount Olympus can. Strategic mind and raw chaos, seated side by side, having proven they are the two faces of the same storm. Athena, Ares. Thank you, genuinely, for being the finest guests this table has ever nearly let talk.
Thank you for the invitation. I did not need the whole afternoon to speak. I needed the moments that mattered, and today, for once, I got most of them.
Same. I came in expecting to be the joke again. I am leaving having said more true things at this table than I have in 300 years. I did not expect that, and I am not going to pretend I hate it.
There is still bread, if either of you would like some before the long walk down. Ares, take the honey. War gods need something sweet, and today I think you have both earned it.
I will bank the hearth back up now. Nobody knocked it over, and more than that, nobody left the way they arrived. I count that the single greatest tactical achievement of the entire afternoon. Until next time, from all of us at Mount Olympus, be gentle with each other down there.